If you're under 13, piss off.
Hello YouTube, welcome to another episode of Angry Dave's Adult RC. I am your host, Angry Dave. Anyone under 13 needs to get lost and shouldn't be watching this. We are obviously going to be doing some work on my Trail Finder 2 here. I love this truck, I love the scale realism of it. The only thing that bugs me really is that it's a 79-ish, I think, Blazer, and it's got fucking Toyota axles in it, which looks weird as hell. So RC 4-wheel drive makes these K44 axles, which look a whole lot more like a GM 12-bolt style axle housing, and the front's even offset to the passenger side, which is correct for the truck. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to those. I also wanted to get some 155 wheels going on this thing, just because this truck would have come with a 15-inch rim, so it looks a lot more correct to have a wheel that size on it. And I like tires with a little more sidewall and a little less wheel. So we got these SSD 155s, good looking wheels, bead lock, with scale hex hardware, and then we got the RC 4-wheel drive Goodyear Wranglers, which end up being about a 41-inch tire in scale on this truck. So it's a good sized tire. It'll give us a little more ground clearance, but it won't fill up the wheel well so much that I'm just grinding it away anytime I stuff the tire. So I think the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and assemble the wheels and tires, and then we'll take it from there. Hell yeah. Look pretty good. I like that. Can't wait to see how they perform. Looks pretty good here. And we got the stock. You see when you line it up, it's not a massive difference in height. You're probably talking, that's probably about a fat half-inch, if I was to put a measurement on it, something like that. But a little bit less wheel, a little bit more tire. Looks more correct style-wise on this truck. It'll give me a little bit more flex in the sidewalls for crawling and stuff like that. And it's got a reasonably stiff foam in it, so it should be good with the weight of the truck. Some might remember that I did put Competition Engineering foams in the stock wheels, stock tires, whatever the fuck you want to say, just to support the weight of this vehicle a little bit, because the tires will just roll right under anytime you were side hilling or anything like that. So we'll have to see how these perform. I went for it with the stock foams for now, and there's a lot of goddamn screws on there, so if I hate it and I end up having to change the foams, I'm going to have to kick my own ass. But let's get on to the next thing we're going to do, which I think is probably going to be the axles here. We shouldn't really need to modify anything. We might need to change up the screws that we're using, because these are not something that you can run a screw through and nut. It looks like you screw straight into the axle, and that basically acts as the nut. So I might have to change out a set of screws, but that's no big deal. Let's get on it. There we go. Nice new axle. Looking good. Looking Chevy. Haven't done the front yet, but got the rear done here. I didn't show it going back together because it's kind of a long, drawn-out process. Got a lot of trial and error with different length screws and bullshit stuff like that. So I did drill the other side of this out so that I can use a lock pin that goes all the way through instead of a fucking grub screw. This pin is actually an axle lock pin from a Traxxas Slash, so if you wanted to be able to like buy them in bulk, it's the same thread as the RC four-wheel drive shaft. You just punch a hole on the other side for the other end of the pin to fit into, and boom, now you don't have to worry about the thing falling out all the time. The other thing I did while I was up in there was made these little triangular brackets to give a new mounting position for the shock. So I got the shock set up to where it's about in the middle of its travel. So we got about half to compress and about half to be able to extend. And then I just made a nice little bracket. Having it go to the frame here made it a little bit too short, so there wasn't much for it to compress. And going inside like most people do to this cross member here is not really feasible because the lift block and the angle wedge here lift the spring up to the point where it contacts the shock in the travel and makes it a problem. So this corrects that, gives me full travel on my suspension, and rock and roll. Time to move on to the front. Alright, so the front axle went in pretty much as easily as the rear one did. Fits nice. And looks pretty good. The only thing I still have to do is drill this drive shaft for the new lock pin and then put it on there, obviously. But it jumped in there nice. I had to add a couple of spacers to the steering to get up over the leaf spring, but no big deal. It was easy. So time to move on to the sliders, I think. Yeah, it's coming along. It's looking good. That wheel and tire combo looks great on here. Came together nice. We got K44s under there now, so it looks more correct. I got, I don't know if you can see that, but we got super lift stickers, if I can fucking talk, on the shocks. And I guess now it's time to move on to some of the other scale details, maybe the fuel cell. Let's see what it's going to take to get that done. So here's the fuel cell. There's not a whole lot to it. It's a pretty small piece. It's acrylic cast. This surface is sanded flat when you get it. I filed the four corners, or four sides, or whatever the fuck you want to call them, straight, so that they would line up well. What we're going to do is we're going to take some of this evergreen square stock shit. We're going to cut pieces that go down the long side, 2 pieces on each side to make it higher so it sits up, and then we're going to use the sheet to cap the short ends because it'll be a little easier and a little faster. Then we'll have a bigger, fuller looking fuel cell, and we're going to make it so that it just velcros right down over the body posts to hide them. We'll also have to drill holes in the end of these 2 fuel fittings so that these fuel lines, see how they got kind of a pin? I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, that'll fit in there, and I should be able to glue them in, and then we'll drill a couple of holes in the bed floor for them to pass through so it looks like they're plumbed into the truck. I cut the sides, got them glued on. One side's already done, the other side's drying right now. I did it on a paper towel so I could do it flat on the bench and get everything square, and it just leaves a little bit of remnant behind that'll sand off in no time. Alright, now I got the ends on there. I cut some of the square stock in half to make little reinforcing brackets to make sure the piece was strong. Basically got everything filed down to a rough straightness. And from here on out, I guess I'm going to get some filler putty and hit all the low spots and sand it a few times. And then once I'm happy with that, I'll hit it with some seal or primer, a few coats of that to seal the putty and to sand out any minor imperfections. And then once I'm happy with the finish on that, we'll shoot it with satin black to match the top section. Then I'll probably do a little bit of extra detailing on the top section, and we'll drill the 2 holes right here so that we can mount the lines, and then we'll decide how we're going to mount it to the truck. I was thinking Velcro originally, but now I'm kind of leaning towards magnets, so we'll see what happens. Alright, so here's what I currently use for filling and body working small stuff. Bondo brand glazing and spot putty, available at pretty much any auto parts store, any brand. You know, this shit's not hard to find. There's 2 different kinds though. There's the kind that's just the tube, just like this, and there's also a kind that is a little bit more professional grade, and it comes with a separate tube of hardener. Now if you're a body guy and you see an advantage to that, fine. For most of us, the extra tube is just a pain in the ass. It's an extra step. It's not really necessary, especially for, you know, these aren't real cars. They're not going to be getting nearly the kind of abuse that real car body work would be getting out in the world. So not necessary to be able to customize your level of hardener or any of that kind of shit. The stuff dries nice and quick in a warm, dry house where it's not overly humid or anything like that. You're talking 20-30 minutes and the shit is sandable, which is nice. So we're just gonna, I'm probably gonna use, you know, a couple of, you want something with a straight edge, so I'll probably use this to just kind of spread like that. So I'll go ahead and put that into, you know, like there's a little, it's hard to see, but there's a little gap there, and there's a couple of little thises and that's here and there. So we'll put that shit in there, give it a half an hour and sand it down, and keep doing that until there's no more holes to fill. Alright, so now we got 2 rounds of filler and sanding with 220, and it's reasonably smooth. Now I'm going to start hitting it with the sealer primer. That's going to do 2 things. Making it all one color will make it easier to see defects so that I can finish sanding it out, making it nice and smooth, and it will also seal the filler so that it doesn't suck up the paint. It will actually suck the paint up and kill the fucking finish, so whatever you spray on there, even if it's flat, it'll have like an extra flat spot where any of the filler is. So you use something like this. I get this stuff at the auto parts store. Most auto parts stores are going to have shit like this. Might not always be duplicolor, but it doesn't matter. Most of the major brands are reasonable. So we shoot a couple of coats of this on with some light sanding. I'll probably bump it up to 300 something grit just to knock the grain size down a little bit. And as soon as we get a spray on that doesn't show any defects, then we put on color and we're done. Alright, we got everything pretty smooth and sealed, so now we're going to go ahead and shoot it with some semi-gloss or satin, whatever you want to call it, black. So now that the outside's done, it's time to get it mounted. First I cut 3 1/4" by 1/4" pieces of evergreen plastic and glued those in. Then I cut 4 pieces of 3/16" and glued those in. Then I glued some Velcro to it and to the bed of the truck, and boom. Covers up the pins. Nice scale detail. So what I still need to do now is, right down in this neighborhood somewhere, I need to drill a hole so that I can pass the fuel lines through. So then basically the operation will be stick the fuel lines through the hole and then stick the fucking thing to the Velcro, and it'll look like a plumbed fuel cell. I may even stick a wire or two on it, try to make it look wired too. We'll see. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it's a possibility. And there it is, looking pretty good. I still got to find something to finish off the hole there, but that's not a big deal. Covers up those body pins nicely and looks good in the bed of the truck. So overall, yeah, we got the axles, we got the wheels, we got the fuel cell, everything's looking good. Definitely got more scale items to come on this truck. Got more probably performance modifications too. Got driver we're going to get in there. We're going to fuck around with the interior and a whole bunch of different stuff. Going to have some run videos coming, but that's all going to happen in another episode because this thing is already getting kind of long. So hope you enjoyed it. Drop us a like, leave us a comment, check us out on social media, and we'll see you next time on Adult RC, where grown-up time is playtime.